Let me just start by making this very clear. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is misleading. You will die a lot more than twice. In fact, I was killed in Sekiro more than any other game I've ever played in my life. Except maybe Battletoads. Everyone dies in Battletoads. And I did plan to have this review up weeks ago, but the final boss was a complete jerk and wasted way too many hours of my life. But I guess that's what you'd expect from any From Software title. Sekiro is the newest Soulsy type game from these awesome video game developers. And by Soulsy, I just mean bloody hard, because Sekiro does more than enough to separate itself from the Dark Souls series. The combat, for instance, couldn't be more different if it tried, but more on this later. Personally, I can't get enough of these type of games. They are always an insta-buy for me. Even with the massive hype I had for Sekiro, it still managed to exceed all of my expectations. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is brilliant and a must play for anyone into these kind of games. Just be warned, all of the degrees in Dark Souls and Bloodborne you may have will not help you out one bit here. Let's take a look. The narrative of Sekiro is a lot more clear than that of the Dark Souls games. There's quite a few cutscenes and main characters who progress the story through the conversations with the main character Wolf. Basically, the Ashina clan are on the brink of collapse. To save the clan, their commander Genishiro aims to use the powers of Kuro, who is the only living descendant of an ancient bloodline, to create an immortal army. You play the role of Wolf, who was a shinobi and sworn bodyguard of Kuro. It's your duty to protect him, so putting an end to Genishiro's plans is a good place to start. Now, Wolf has had a rough upbringing, and this is really shown through his lack of emotion, monotonal voice and short, blunt responses. He lives for one purpose, to protect his lord with his life. I do like how Sekiro places more of an emphasis on its narrative, as the clarity of its storytelling helps build up the characters and lore in more obvious ways. The plot works pretty well for the context, and like previous From Software games, there are multiple endings based on the choices you make. The 16th century Japanese setting of Sekiro is stunning to look at and explore. Being a shinobi, Wolf is able to use his grappling hook and jumping abilities to reach higher areas of the world. This adds a completely new dynamic to the gameplay, as it not only provides new options for exploration, but also a completely new way to go about enemy encounters. Zooming around these breathtaking locations and grappling onto anything I could was one of the highlights for me. To be honest, when starting the game, I was worried that the entire setting was going to be Japanese-style villages, but I was happy to see loads of different types of locations to explore, such as sprawling caves, secluded villages, and lush forests. Each location is also really well designed. As with the Soul games, there are secrets around every corner, and going through old areas, exploring every inch and finding its many secrets is so rewarding. One of the biggest questions I had coming into this game was how different the combat would be to the Dark Souls series. There are so many new mechanics in Sekiro that aside from the crazy difficulty levels, it feels like an entirely new game, as it should. The biggest difference here is with the death blow and posture system. Each enemy takes a certain amount of death blows to defeat. Weaker enemies take 1, while most mini-bosses and main bosses take 2. Now, a death blow can be performed by either depleting the enemy's health bar through attacks or by filling the enemy's posture gauge, mainly through well-timed deflections. The key consideration here is that the less health the enemy has, the easier it is to fill up their posture gauge. Now, this combat system took me a while to get used to, but I cannot explain how incredible it turned out to be. Learning when to attack and timing a series of perfect deflections is the key strategy to Sekiro, and finally landing that death blow after countless tries is incredibly rewarding. I think part of what makes this combat so rewarding is the insane difficulty level, which in my opinion is far greater than Dark Souls. Some of the bosses are insane, and defeating them requires the knowledge of what to do in every single situation. The final boss, for instance, absolutely destroyed me more times than I could count, but the feeling of both disbelief and pure excitement when I finally ended that son of a bitch is a rare feeling. If Dark Souls was all about dodging the enemy and finding a time to attack, Sekiro is all about knowing when to deflect and when to dodge and finding the perfect balance of aggression and defense. There is so much complexity to every boss fight, and this was a true highlight for me. I would like to say that Sekiro's combat is perfect, but I can't. Its problem and only real issue I have with the game is the dodgy camera angles when near map boundaries and the fact that the game tends to lock off the enemy at the worst of times. This led to more deaths than I can count and created many screams of profanity, but at least everything else was pretty damn good. I love stealthing my way through the shadows, performing silent assassinations. Now, I'm 6'4" and not the biggest fan of blood or murder, so video games is it for me. Sekiro does this so well. I mentioned before that you have to deplete the enemy's health bar or fill their posture gauge to perform a death blow. Well, you can also sneak up silently behind them and kill them instantly. Many areas of the game can be completely wiped clean of enemies without them seeing you at all. Learning where you won't be seen, which angles to attack from, and when to unleash your sword is an incredible experience. I spent a fair bit of time on Sekiro forums, and the general strategy to just about every boss fight was get good. You see, unlike the Dark Souls series, there is no leveling up and building your stats, or even acquiring different weapons and armor to upgrade. As an RPG gamer, the thought of not being able to do a load of grinding if I was ever stuck terrified me. But the truth is, it also made the game that much more rewarding and enjoyable. But that's not to say you can't upgrade your character at all, because you can, just not to the same extent as the Souls series. In terms of your stats, defeating bosses will provide you with items to permanently increase your attack power, while defeating 4 mini-bosses will allow you to increase your maximum health. Defeating your enemies also provides you with experience, which will eventually net you skill points. These skill points can be used on various skill trees and provide you with benefits such as new combat moves and passive skills such as an increase in healing. However, Sekiro's new main feature is using his prosthetic arm. You see, at the start of the game, your arm gets hacked off. This is not ideal until you get fitted with a prosthetic arm, which can attach to a series of unique upgradable tools. These tools are all hidden around the world, and when found and fitted, provide loads of variation in battle. One such tool is a simple shuriken, which can be shot at range to interrupt enemy attacks. Another is the loaded axe, which unleashes a slow attack but does massive posture damage to the enemy. Finding and upgrading these tools may also give you the upper hand in boss battles, so they're worth hunting high and low for. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice was everything I wanted from a new From Software title, plus more. Getting absolutely destroyed time and time again in just about every way imaginable never got tiring because I could see that I was getting better. Sekiro's world is absolutely gorgeous. Grappling around the place, dispatching foes from the shadows and finding the many secrets hidden throughout was a highlight for me. But sometimes I just wanted to whip out my sword and test out my skills, and Sekiro allowed for just that. After finally understanding the ins and outs of the combat mechanics, I soon realized just how amazing the system was. There were countless stressful moments throughout, but that made it all the more rewarding. This is particularly true with the boss fights, which can be brutal in difficulty but truly require you to learn every aspect of your opponent. Just about every aspect of Sekiro is close to perfect. The only true problem holding it back is the occasional camera issues and the fact that the enemy lock-on seems to disengage at the worst of times. If you're a fan of From Software games and are in for a different kind of challenge, then Sekiro is a must-play. This was Hellfire RPGs, thanks for watching. If you liked this, hit like and sub for more RPG content. See you next time.